Hey there folks, welcome back to the channel. We are Mile High Beach. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Pleshette.
And Charlie is down here resting himself nicely on the ground. So today we thought we would do things a little differently, switch it up a little bit, and talk about 4 ways to avoid campground mishaps.
What do we mean by mishaps?
Yeah, what do we mean by mishaps? Well, we've been on the road for a year and a half, roughly. And in that time, we've seen some things. We've had our own, but we've seen some things. And we're going to go through 4 of them. We'll show pictures. We'll talk a little bit about them. And when you hang out to the end, we'll talk about the ways you can avoid those things.
To try to, best avoid them.
Yeah. All right, so number 1. This was at the Sun San Diego RV Park in Chula Vista, California. We had an RV that, how would you describe that?
Well, I'll say that the spots are pull through. Many of the spots are pull through, and they're concrete, but they're bordered on, or the sides of them are basically a gravel. And so I think what happened here was just a miscalculation.
Yeah. One thing I will say about this is that this was a time of year. So we were there in December and January, and there was a lot of rain, and all the rain just made the ground soft.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that contributed to this really being a problem. So we'll show a picture here, and you can see where this guy's whole back tire has sunk down into the mud.
So basically what happened is he cut his turn too short.
Yeah.
So when he was leaving the concrete, when he was making, in his case, a left turn, he ended up coming off of the concrete and into that gravel.
Yeah.
And as Alicia said, that gravel had gotten pretty waterlogged because we had gotten a lot of rain, and he just sunk his whole kind of back end of his RV into that gravel.
Yeah. And we haven't done a campground review of this one yet, but when we do, we'll talk about this more. But this is one of these campgrounds that says that it's big rig friendly, but honestly, it's not that it's not, but it's probably easier for people that are in Class A's. Yeah. He had a fifth wheel. Yeah.
So
yeah. Anything else on that one?
No, I think that was it.
All right.
I mean, he did safely get out of the spot. It took a while.
It took a while. It took a number of
a number of campground workers. I think
some wood planks.
Some folks just standing nearby. Our neighbor ran over with I think his shovel. So it took, I'm guessing, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to get him out of that spot
easily.
And hopefully he didn't have any further damage.
Yeah.
But it took a while to get him out, but he did get out of there. What looked like safely.
Yeah. And what you don't know is something getting bent or whatever. Like, did he bend an axle? I mean, who knows? That's the thing so this is why you want to avoid these things. We'll talk about the ways to avoid them later, but this is one of those things that could really lead to a problem.
Yeah.
Number 2, this is at the Oasis Campground in Durango, Colorado. It was like 11 o'clock at night.
No,
we were asleep.
We were asleep.
And we hear this noise. What noise? You heard the noise.
I heard something, and I actually didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And it was dark. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's a very dark campground. There's not a lot of lights at this particular campground. So I peeked out the window, but I was in bed. I wasn't getting ready to get up, put clothes on, go outside, and so I didn't see anything. But it sounded crazy, so I went back to bed.
And so what we saw in the morning when I flung the door open to go out and walk Charlie, I do the morning walks, is this person had driven through an empty campground site and got stuck on a stump.
A tree stump. Yeah, so a tree had been removed who knows how long ago. Yeah. It was a pretty good sized tree though.
Yeah.
And
he couldn't see it.
He didn't see it, and made a turn to cut through the space next to us, which was empty, and somehow cut it too short, too close, and he drove his, I think he had a Volvo station wagon, drove it right up on that stump.
So what we were hearing the night before, which we didn't know, is him being stuck on the stump revving his wheels trying to get off.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't even think he could really see what was going on. I
mean, it was dark.
It was pretty dark.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Some campgrounds are like this. You go to some cities and they're really trying to have not a lot of light pollution, and so this is one of those things. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else on that one?
No. I mean, again, he did safely get off of that stump. They had to call in a flatbed tow truck the next morning.
Pictures
to
of all of this.
pull him off of that stump. So we have pictures of that. But we'll move on.
All right, number 3. This is in the Boulder Creek RV Resort in Lone Pine, California. And here we see, well, we'll put a picture up here, but we have a Class A that basically just took out a picnic bench. Now, you were working.
And I was working, and I heard that. And I was like, what the heck was that noise? And I jumped up and looked out the window, because, I mean, it sounded like somebody was taking out a forest.
Yeah.
I mean, the tree was like splintering or shattering or something. So
yeah.
I jumped up and looked out and saw this Class A had kind of I don't know. There was a wooden picnic bench, and somehow he just, I guess he didn't see it. He was leaving and he didn't see it, and I overheard somebody, I think, say, "That's going to leave a mark," because it was crazy.
That will leave a mark, and that table was mangled because she went to go see it. I always run out with my camera, so we could provide, insights and footage for you guys. But yeah, I ran out with my camera to go see that. So so you'll see the photo there. It was pretty well mangled.
And he just left. I mean, he did leave. I do know that the campground, maintenance people, it looked like they were able to repair the table.
Yeah, that day actually. I think I saw somebody working on it.
Yeah, but it just sounded crazy, and who knows what kind of damage he did to his RV. Yeah, by scraping that, by running over that table, in essence, is what he did.
Anything else on that one?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Number 4. So this one was ours, and it did leave a mark.
It did.
So this was this our first stop into Arizona?
I can't remember if it was our first stop into or our stop coming back.
Yeah. It was a one-night stay.
It was a one-night stay.
It was at one-night stay, and it was at a campground called the Newberry Springs RV Park. Yeah, I'll put all the information below. And it's kind of one of these RV parks that's just right off the road, real easy to get into, but kind of tiny.
Yeah, it's really a one-night kind of place.
Yeah,
it's a good place to, as you're on your way to someplace else.
Yeah,
but and because it's the only place in this direction, corridor.
Yeah,
you tend to stop there because if you need to stop, and so we did.
Yeah.
And
I think I did a Yelp review on this one. I'll put that one in the link below. And I don't think we did a campground.
I don't think we did a campground review on this one, but they say they're big rig friendly. I mean, we got in there and got out, but not without some little marks.
Yeah, some marks. Yeah. So there was a little pond in the center of the park, and as we pull out of our spot, we were coming around the pond, and there were these trees around the pond, and at this time, again, we were still pretty new at this. She was on the driver's side, I was on the passenger side, and we came around the pond, and these trees that we went by, they didn't look like, we cut the angle, I think, a little too tight.
I think we just cut in too tight.
Yeah.
But it really was narrow. I mean, even if I'd have made a wider turn, I wouldn't have been able to make a much wider turn.
Yeah, it was narrow.
So I'm not sure that I would have avoided those tree, branches at the top anyway, but I was too close.
And it left a mark.
And it did leave a bit of a mark. A nice scratch down the side of the rig. But, you live and learn. And that's what we've done.
Yeah, so those were the top 4 campground mishaps that we've observed, recorded, taken note of. And here we are. Actually, we have 5 tips for ways to avoid those. So the first one, and this is about the San Diego RV resort where the guy was down in the dirt with his...
And they could apply to all of them, but this one was specifically what came to mind for that one.
Yeah. The way to avoid this is to assess the space, because you were talking about this, right? We're on a a cement slab,
Right.
and walk around, assess the space, back up, and maybe move to the right a little bit, and then swing out.
Don't be afraid to, or don't think just because you're in a pull through that you can't back up. You know, I mean, it seems counter, I guess, intuitive or obvious, but yeah, if you need to back up just so you can get some more space to make a wider turn, do it.
Yeah,
especially if you got the space. And in this particular park, they had space for that.
Plenty of space.
There was plenty of space. So
yeah,
this person could have probably benefited from perhaps just backing up a little bit, being able to make that turn, that left turn wider, so it wouldn't ended up in that gravel.
Yeah. And finally, on that one, we always recommend a spotter. I'm the spotter, so whenever we are getting ready to leave any campground, unless it's just a wide open field, I'm out. I'm out with the walkie-talkie, and I'm walking around to see the two tail ends, because tail swing is a real thing in these fifth wheels and trailers.
Yeah.
So, so having a spotter. Yeah. Number 2. This was the gentleman that got stuck on
the stump.
The stump.
The tree stump.
Yes. Yeah. And so there.
So, yeah, I mean, I think in particular in that situation, cutting through spaces, I don't think there's anything wrong with cutting through spaces in general, particularly if they're empty and it's daylight. But again, we mentioned that this campground was pretty dark, and so cutting through the spaces at night at this place, you just couldn't see. I mean, I would get turned around at night just walking around sometimes, just because it was really that dark. So yeah, cutting through spaces at night, you want to make sure you have adequate lighting if you're moving around a campground. So, definitely make sure there's enough light.
Yeah.
If you're going to be moving around.
Yeah. I mean, we had to go out with headlamps at night because it was so easy to there were a lot of trees in this park. It was a very nice park, but you could lose your bearings. It's like, where am I?
Yeah. And it really wasn't even that big of a park.
No.
It was just at night, everything looked different or the same or whatever, but it wasn't the way it looked in the daylight. So
no,
it really, you could easily get turned around.
Yeah. And on the note of cutting through spaces, we know that a lot of campgrounds, they don't want you cutting through spaces, whether they're empty or not. So just mind the campground, rules, whatever those are. But as a general rule of thumb, particularly if it's night and you can't see that well, you might want to avoid cutting through spaces.
Yeah.
The third one is for the Boulder Creek RV Resort, where the Class A took out that picnic table. And this is another one where you assess the space, get out, walk around. Because you do that, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, check out the space. I mean, that's kind of our bonus fifth one. But walk around, see what exits are going to look like. I always like to walk or drive the exit before travel day.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I know which way I'm going to go, how things are going to turn. I don't want to be trying to figure that out the day we're leaving and we're all packed up and ready to go. I want to make sure that I understand how we're going to be navigating through the park. So, I think that's really, and then key is also Alicia, like she said, is she's out. She's doing the spotting.
Yeah.
We're talking on the walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
She's telling me that I'm clear on either side, driver or passenger side. So, so we're not running over things.
Yeah. Number 4 is with our mishap that we had at the Newberry Springs RV Park, and this is another one where, assess the, because this one was a really tiny park too, and we were super new at this, so we were still learning. But in hindsight, I would get out, I'd walk the space. I'm again a spotter, always a spotter. And then just making sure we know how to navigate. And if there's any adjustments we need to make, like to the campground, this is really tight, can you cut these branches down?
Right.
Whatever it is.
We did that.
We've done that before.
That's
right.
Parks. We've actually had the park, personnel come cut down branches, particularly if it's on an exit, we're going to be too close. So we did that in Utah once. So we had an overnight at a KOA.
That's right.
Did that. So
manager came running out and clipped those branches.
Clipped the branches back. So, and that's thankful to Alicia being out and kind of assessing that and, checking out the space before we actually get going. So I just think that, we think those are very critical.
Yeah. And so finally on that number 4, again, with that one, it was kind of an angle thing. So we've gotten better because, the more you drive your rig, you'll get better at those angles. We just weren't, the math wasn't really good there in the beginning. So we really cut that a little tight. She said earlier we could have swung out a little wider, but I just don't know how much more we would have had to do that. And then the last one, as she already mentioned, is the bonus tip is really to walk or drive the space before you leave.
Yeah, I really think that's important. I mean, I know it's, travel day is already a hectic kind of day. It's already, you're getting ready to drive however many hours you're getting ready to drive, and there's all kinds of other things you need to be concerned with. The last thing you need to be concerned with is how you're actually getting out of the park.
Yeah.
You want to be able to, leave and not have some sort of mishap on your way out.
No mishaps. Just say no to mishaps.
So let us know what kind of mishaps you
Yeah.
Have you seen some crazy things? These were pretty crazy. But let us know in the comments below if you've seen something. You've had one yourself. Let us know what the funniest mishap you've experienced.
Yeah. And anything that you can do, put your comments down in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, share the video with anybody that you think might benefit from our content. It really helps our channel out when you do that. We really appreciate you hanging in here and watching our top 4 ways to avoid campground mishaps with the 4 tips plus the bonus tip. So
So with that,
we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.